everybody. We've got a team of extremely talented, acclaimed speakers here on this roundtable. And without further ado, and to make up for the time we have lost, let me go straight into introducing all of them. Let me start with Ravi Karmalker. Ravi Karmalker is a German-Indian film producer who till date has received 33 nominations and first prizes at international film festivals. Early years, upon studying history of arts, Ravi directed theater plays and trained approximately 150 actors in method acting. From 1995, as a radio and TV reporter for Europe's biggest national TV and radio station, German National Broadcaster WDR, he produced over 1,000 features on cultural and social topics. Since 2002, Ravi has produced and directed numerous award-winning TV documentaries and docufiction for major German TV channels. Since 2017, Ravi has produced various German, Kenyan facts and fiction projects as showrunner, writer, and director. Among them is the high-end TV drama series Country Queen in partnership with ZDF Arte, the German Federal Ministry for Development and Economic Cooperation (BMZ), Deutsche Welle Academy, and Netflix. Country Queen launched on Netflix in mid-June 2022, held top one position for over 5 weeks and top 10 positions for over 4 months. So let's welcome Ravi Karmalker. Our next speaker is Dr. Stefanie Rothenberger, the director of the KAS Rule of Law program for Anglophone Sub-Saharan Africa. Before her appointment at KAS Rule of Law program for Sub-Saharan Africa in October 2020, Dr. Rothenberger was serving as ministerial counselor for the German Parliament in Berlin, where she was mainly responsible for the official international relations of the President of German Parliament and his deputies, with a focus on the Arab world and Africa. During her assignment with Parliament, she spent 7 months in the Sultanate of Oman to study Arabic. Dr. Rothenberger has also worked with the German Federal Council, Bundesrat, the representation of the German states, Länder, at the federal level, inter alia as the representative of the German Federal Council and European Parliament in Brussels. Prior to this position, she worked for the Development Law Service of the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations in Rome. She studied law at the universities of Munich, Lausanne, and Heidelberg, and absorbed a legal training to attain the qualification to work as a judge at the High Court of Hamburg. She's done a PhD in international environmental law at the Max Planck Institute for Comparative Public Law and International Law in Heidelberg, as well as at the University of British Columbia and Vancouver, Canada. Let's welcome Dr. Stefanie Rothenberger. And finally, our third speaker for the day, David Reimer. David Reimer launched the Storyboard Collective in order to support and amplify the transformative power of storytelling in the pursuit of a better and fairer world. David started his career in finance at the Capital Group companies before he co-founded Index Ventures, a leading global venture capital firm, in 1995. For 18 years, he oversaw strategy and managed all aspects of the firm's operations. In 2013, he left Index to realize a childhood dream and became a high school history teacher. He did this for 6 years before deciding to dedicate his life to philosophy. In 2020, David founded the Storyboard Collective in Geneva, Switzerland, dedicated to supporting media for good initiatives. He sees himself as an ally in the quest to amplify authentic voices from underrepresented communities and a capacity builder in the documentary impact outreach industry. Welcome, David, as well. We have a phenomenal round of speakers here. And let me just tell you why they are here together on this session on behavior change, the perfect communication booster. So Stefanie, David, and Ravi are connected through 2 behavior change film projects. Firstly, the documentary Journey to Justice, initiated by Stefanie and realized by Ravi, a retelling of 2 legal cases where civil rights groups sued the Kenyan government for environmental violations and won. The other is the feature film Chaguo, directed and produced by Ravi and co-produced by David. Chaguo is a Romeo and Juliet adaptation set during the bloody pre-election campaign in Kenya and takes a critical look at the anti-democratic tribalism prevalent in Sub-Saharan Africa. Both films were conceived as educational entertainment. They have already reached a large audience in advance. That is, and they will be on Netflix as well from March 2023. and I've been honored with a total of 12 nominations and first prizes at international film festivals. Now, Stefanie, David, and Ravi are preparing another boost, and this is very interesting, you guys. Namely, to send Journey to Justice and Chaguo on an impact campaign trip to Sub-Saharan Africa via cinema on wheels to reach audiences beyond the African metropolises. With the help of a cinema powered by solar panels, the film will be shown and then discussed with a largely illiterate audience. From Netflix to the solar cinema on the dusty village screen. Stefanie, David, and Ravi will explain why they consider film to be particularly suitable for bringing ethical, democracy, and enhancing content to a mass audience.
So I'm done. Thank you, Naresh, for inviting us. Thank you so much, because it gives us the opportunity also to share our experiences out there with the people, with the audience there, from wherever they come. So it might be helpful also to, if I may ask, to just show the trailers right now, so maybe the audience also gets an idea of what we're talking about, and then maybe we can go into the details. Is this okay?
I believe in Konrad. Well, doesn't hurt that he's so easy to look at.
You know, my parents, Windows parents, oil and water.
I am not going to back down. I will also completely understand if anyone in here chooses to leave this family.
Thank you for your offer, but I'm staying.
I'm staying.
Are you okay?
I'm fine.
My uncle is probably behind it.
Always him or Matata.
I'd appreciate it if you did this after the election.
Unlike you, my life does not revolve around politics.
It's always good when we get together again.
With a body like this, no wonder you're smitten. Now, you can imagine the shock when I found out that our future daughter-in-law is working for the enemy.
It's just a job.
Your sister here must accept that she made the wrong choice.
Honor your father and mother and heed their guidance, even to whom you cast your vote for in the election.
And where is that written in the Bible?
Have I ever told you to remind me of my wife?
Those scratches on your face, they make you look heroic.
I thought I'd come and offer my help.
There's no peace because of you.
Wendell, are you mad? Can you stop shouting?
This is a disaster for our family.
You wonder why I don't want to get involved in politics.
Tafadhali kaa mbali na msichana wangu.
I love you.
Bye.
Excuse me? I've seen the way you look at him. Something has happened between the two of you, right? No fool, no more, bro. We're going to push my uncle's campaign so hard that core will crash.
Family genes waking up finally.
Journey to justice.
To know one's rights, often it is an adventure, especially when the opponent seems stronger.
We want to show you what ordinary people can achieve. So we have taken the perspective of these people and will now tell you their story.
And this is exactly what is shown by the two cases that we'll present to you.
Hiyo mto ilikuwa inasaidia country tatu: Sudan, Ethiopia, Kenya.
Walikuja wakitumia matrakta, wakitumia magari ya nguvu.
The community gathered.
The advocacy was not only national, it was global.
It was not clear who was spearheading the project.
People would suffer loss of livelihoods because of the impacts on the environment.
We decided to sue the Attorney General as representing the government of Kenya.
Individual and the interest rights are never given on a silver platter. They require to be fought for.
Remember, the law almost always gives you the necessary tools.
Whenever a citizen of the partner says, feels his rights have not been protected, he comes directly to the Eastern Court of Justice in accordance with Article 30, Article 2.
I think let's start with the whole story of how the three of you came together, how these two movies, actually how the original idea came up.
Yes. Okay. Now, maybe I'll just start with the current state, and then hand over to Stefanie also to explain a bit why she has chosen film as a communication tool. Right now, Stefanie, David, and me, we are preparing what you already mentioned, a so-called cinema on wheels, which means to communicate those topics of Journey to Justice also to a broader audience. It had already an audience, but now it's about also getting in touch with the people up country in Kenya and in other parts of Sub-Saharan Kenya. So, and then, David came up also with a very interesting idea, because in South Africa, there are also behavior change specialists sitting. They are called Sunshine Cinema. So what they do is to take films which have which could have an impact and travel with them up country with a solar box. That's why they are called Sunshine Cinema. So as you know, normally electricity is not given in those rural areas. So they just put up their solar cinema in the evenings when the villagers are coming together. 300 people are sitting in front of the screen. Then a film is shown, and then a discussion starts about the topics which the film conveys. And so these are I didn't know about them before. So David introduced them, and then I told Stefanie as well. So I think it's a very perfect way of also showing and transporting a message to an audience which normally is cut off from electricity, cut off from internet, cut off from all those discussions which normally you can find in mega cities, in the media, and so on and so on. So there we are. So we are just trying to get this now rolling. But now this is the current state, but all this started with Stefanie approaching me at the Berlinale 3 years ago. So maybe Stefanie, it's also would be nice, I think, for the audience to understand why you have chosen film as a communication tool in order to transport your key messages.
And a warm thank you to the organizers of the conference from Nairobi for having us here, for having me here, and for making it possible for me to speak about a project that is very close to my heart, and that is Journey to Justice. Maybe to give you some background about the organization I work for. So I'm the director of Konrad Adenauer's Rule of Law program, Konrad Adenauer Foundation's Rule of Law program for Anglophone Sub-Saharan Africa. And Konrad Adenauer Foundation is a German political foundation closely affiliated to the Christian Democratic Party, which is the party of Angela Merkel, our former federal chancellor. And our mission is, which we pursue with about 100 offices worldwide, to foster democracy, human rights, and good governance worldwide. And our Rule of Law program has been active here in the region for nearly 15 years. And yes, and the core business of our work is to foster human rights, the rule of law, constitutionalism, international criminal justice, just to name some of the topics. And the tools we normally use is conferences, workshops. So the goal is to create a platform in the region for those who... Can you hear me? Yeah, I continue. To create a platform for those in the region who want to support and promote the rule of law. So it's basically physical formats. However, before I came here in October 2020, I got stuck in Germany by the Corona crisis. So I had a lot of time to think about where do I want to go with this program. And of course, the situation of the rule of law in Sub-Saharan Africa is not an easy one. It's actually a quite problematic one, not only in Sub-Saharan Africa, but also in many other parts of the world. So I was thinking maybe we should take on board a bit of a new approach and try to take citizens on board and really spread the knowledge about what citizens' rights are. And I got this inspiration actually while I was in Germany, and I read a newspaper article about a spectacular law case in Kenya about a community who had achieved a tremendous success before court and very high damages in an environmental law case. And so it was a big German newspaper who wrote about these brave people in Kenya. And when I came to Kenya finally, nearly half a year late, I asked people about this case and whether they've heard of it and what is possible in Kenya and how strong also the judiciary was in this respect. And actually, no one really knew about this case. And as I was in the midst of the Corona crisis and our classical formats were not possible, like conferences bringing people together, I thought, okay, let's do something new. How can we spread the knowledge about cases like this and get citizens on board of our endeavor to promote the rule of law in Sub-Saharan Africa? And luckily and coincidentally, in the same year, I had met Ravi Karmalker, as he already mentioned, at the Berlin International Film Festival. And we stayed in touch, and he was actually one of the first persons I contacted when I came to Nairobi. And I told him about my idea, and we immediately agreed on a joint project to make a film on the journey of citizens in the Sub-Saharan region and how to promote them as positive role models and how to show what citizens can achieve with regard to the rule of law and the enforcement of human rights. And the enforcement of human rights and how to raise awareness region-wide. And of course, film is a perfect tool for this. It's appealing. It's better than just audio. I also thought about an audio format, but it appeals to many of our senses, actually. And I was really lucky because this idea, and I was surprised, was a very new one here in the region. So I talked to our partners. We have a very high-ranking network of judges and lawyers and legal practitioners, and they all encouraged me that I'm on the right track and that I should go forward with this film project. And I got wonderful partners on board, apart from Ravi, who realized the whole project and without whom the film would never be what it is. I also partnered with Kenyatta University School of Law and a wonderful group of students. So the involvement of these students already created an impact. So they all want to become environmental lawyers, and it really has given them a great push in their career already. However, it took us like a bit more than a year to realize this film. Ravi and we wrote the script together. We really put a lot of passion into it. Our students did the background research. And finally, the film was launched in June 2022 in Nairobi with a very high-ranking audience. And it was also, which I'm very proud of, it was possible to get high-ranking jurists on board of our film who give statements in the film. So I really recommend you watch it. It's a 30-minute documentary, and it was launched with great success. And I think what distinguishes this film from other documentaries is that we really pursue an educative approach. So it's not investigative journalism that we try to realize here based on two major landmark environmental law cases in Kenya where communities stood successfully up for their rights, but it is an educative approach. So we really try to show citizens or our audience which steps to take in order to have their rights enforced. And I think the success we had with this project really encouraged us to maybe pursue projects or similar projects like this in the future. This film works through all spheres of society, I have to say. I show this film at high-ranking legal conferences with judges of the African Court of Human Rights, and I go and show it to the fishermen on the island of Lamu, which is one of the communities that features in the film as successful community. And it's actually quite touching to see the reactions to this film. And we also translated this film with the help of Ravi into Kiswahili. That was actually, we were requested to do this because people, they want to see that in rural areas, not only in English. And as Ravi mentioned, we now, we want to set a new project on track and bring this film to rural areas where there might not be any electricity, and to really bring it to the citizens in every corner of the region. And so this is all I have to say at the moment about this project, and I think it's a great passion of Ravi and mine. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thanks, Stefanie. May I just also introduce David at this point, because yes, somehow all our activities are coming together here. But maybe David, kindly explain also there is a wide range of communication tools. So why are you so much interested in film/TV series? I know you're a big fan of also educational TV series. So why are you choosing this as a communication tool? If you can open your microphone.
Thank you, Ravi. Thank you, Naresh, and welcome to everyone. So I'll answer your question. I'll focus it more on maybe TV series, just because I think that the reasons that are linked to TV series also are linked to film, but TV series maybe makes it a little bit more, exacerbates it even more. So the reason I think that film and TV series can influence society and exert change have to do with three reasons. The first is when you watch a TV series or a film, and spend a lot of time with the characters on screen. Whether the characters come from your own culture or whether they come from a completely different one, after a while, you start developing an emotional bond with the characters, an empathy that goes beyond a fleeting relationship. And ultimately, what it does is it humanizes the other. And what we've noticed is that people, after having spent so much time with these characters, when they ultimately meet people from the same culture as the film or series that they've watched, feel a bond to them and have a deeper understanding. So that empathy role was important. The second is that what we've noticed in let's say Europe and the United States is a lot of these TV series are not being made by national channels, and they're not being commissioned by let's say more structured and formalistic bodies, but rather have a strong independent production and co-production activity behind them, which allows for greater creativity, greater, let's say, sense of questioning deeper issues in society, and also less censorship. So that's really valuable. And lastly, the changes in technology allow for distribution of international content much easier. You know, on a Netflix page, you have dozens of content that comes from different countries, dozens of countries represented. And not only that, but the way that people watch TV now and film is much more international. People are much more open to look at films that are made in different parts of the world, as well as subtitled film and different languages within one film. And so all of these together meant that we felt that there needs to be a boost to the film and TV series productions in a lot of different parts of the world. In India, it's less needed because there's an incredibly strong and vibrant community. I mean, some TV series that come out of India are absolutely phenomenal. And, you know, obviously there could always be a boost to everyone, but I think in certain regions of the world, there's really no access to independent funding, which means that all of the funding comes from national broadcasting agencies. And therefore there's strong limits to the creativity and the independence. So Storyboard's view is that we need to play two roles. The first is we need to help help scriptwriters access funding in the development stage, in the earliest stages, for them to be able to really develop their screenplays to a level where they're able to bring in independent production companies, and they're able to bring them in at a level where they can keep some form of control over the story and not just sell it outright and have it changed. And then the second thing is we believe that once these films and TV series are made, we need to spend some time using them and distributing them in such a way that they can have as big an impact as possible. And I guess, you know, the Chaguo story of impact is a good example of that.
Yeah, thanks, David. Also mentioning Chaguo here in the line there. And, so may I just add? So Chaguo was also this was the project Chaguo I mentioned last year already here on this at Rice Summit, but then it was still a plan. Let me just explain what is Chaguo. Chaguo is the title of a feature film, 100 minutes, which revolves around tribalism, which is still a big issue in Kenya and also other parts of Sub-Saharan Africa. So we had the chance here to, on the one hand, educate people in a way we think is right. So, you know, feel make yourself free from tribalism. Just, you know, choose or vote whom you want to be the next president, for instance. This is something, you know, don't vote according to the tribalism lines. This is something I think we told in these stories. And the second is that also it's about the youth also stepping up against their parents, you know, so saying like, you know, I respect you on the one hand, but still I have my own life, I have my own opinion, and I want to be free to express it as the way I see. So I think these are topics which in Kenya are still important to tell. And so making this film Chaguo, this Romeo and Juliet adaptation, had quite also a good success because it was launched before the elections in Kenya. So according to my knowledge, I think 2 million people saw it in Kenyan TV. And there we are. Let me now find the way back to our main topic, behavior change films, because it's not only a belief or behavior change series. It's not only a belief that this can change. Behavior or films as a communication tool or impact tool, behavior change tool is, it has been proven already scientifically that this can be done. So although it's not a main topic, and also a lot of people in my industry don't know the let's say the genre behavior change. It's quite amazing. But still, from time to time, it happens. So if people like Stefanie Rothenberger decide themselves to also invest in such a project, in such a communication tool, then it happens. Suddenly you have out a film which really speaks to the masses. Also, Chaguo, I think, is structured in a way so it can reach a very, very a wide audience. So that's something I think I would like also to talk about. Stefanie, seeing the film, so now your documentary could have been, let's say, like speaking from lawyer to lawyer. Yeah, so we are talking about Journey to Justice. The film just narrated again 2 cases where civil rights groups.
Sound is very bad.
No? So, so there are many ways to tell this, but you have chosen also a very, let's say, entertaining way of transporting those the main content. So why have you done? Why have you chosen this?
So let me talk about yes, maybe why we chose film here to show the journey of communities to have their rights enforced. So the project was, it was born out of, I would say, the passion for law and for film. And I think with film, well, human rights, law, many people have prejudices that this is a very dry kind of field or of subject. And so I thought film would be a perfect tool because you can really tell about law cases in a very lively manner. And if people also see on the screen the people who were involved, I think you can really better understand and maybe identify with these people. And for me, it was important. My first thought was, these people are heroes. So what we also try to do in this film, you know, it's not a feature film, it's a documentary, but we try to make it lively. So we involved not only the people from the communities in interviews, but we also involved our young law students in the film who are actually our researchers and who then became our narrators. And that also gave a very authentic touch to the whole film, to have the communities, our young students, and then our high-ranking judges. And then also we wanted to bring a learning experience to people, not just telling the story of the communities, but to really point out about which articles of the Kenyan Constitution are we talking here. So we are getting very precise in this film. And then we show the steps to communities, 1, 2, 3, 4. Which steps or what action do you have to take in order to bring your case successfully to court? And if we talk about whether the film is a successful tool, I think it has already proven to me with this film that it is, because I showed it, for example, at the island of Lamu, which is it's a small island in the north of Kenya where a big port was built by the Kenyan government, and the rights to participation and the environmental rights of the communities were actually not respected while this construction was going on. And so we showed it to the fishermen who were involved in, you know, the filmmaking, and we had visited them before. And I told them that they are actually role models, and by, you know, having stood up for their rights, they might encourage others to do so. And I could feel, so some of the fishermen were complaining they didn't get the compensation yet, but others, after they had watched the film, I remember fishermen standing up and saying, yes, you're actually right, and we should really also think about what we have achieved regarding the environment and maybe the environmental rights of others in Kenya and in the region. And this, I have to say, I will not forget this man standing up and talking about this film like this. And so we try to measure the success of the film by evaluation and by surveys, and we continue to do so. But so far, our feedback is really, really positive. Yeah, and I would be ready to go for a similar project again. And maybe, yes, Ravi? Sorry.
Yeah, may I add to that? Me as a filmmaker, I was very happy that you also allowed to not only be academic with those topics. You know, if it comes to law, then it's also a quite complex topic, which is very hard to understand. And you gave me, or also the project, the freedom to break it down to marry, so to say, information with with entertainment. So that's what is called edutainment, and I think this might be also a reason why it works so well. So we are we can't display the trailer perfectly due to bandwidth problems today, but you know what the trailer shows is that we added several layers, like working with cartoons, working with those students speaking into the camera, working with a very colorful background, also adding, of course, interview partners in the narrative. And I think it's a very, very vivid and very colorful, very, I don't know whether this is the right expression, but very sensual 13 minutes, which helps the people to digest this very, very heavy topic of, you know, get your rights, you know. Because it's very complicated to get your rights, especially in Kenya, I would say. May I say so now, sitting in Cologne? But, you know, but I think it's the film educates in a way, but it's not lecturing, and it's not lecturing. It's not dry. It's not academic. It's not you know. And you know, it also does not approach the audience with the teacher's attitude, like, you know, you are all stupid, and now there we come and we explain you the world. And I think this might also be a reason why this documentary is so successful. And again, will also be successful if you go to rural areas, because I think the people will appreciate the central value. I hope this is not German English, but you know, it will appreciate that it's also fun to watch this film. So I think it's very, very essential also for others maybe watching us or watching this video later, that if you want to convey your messages, your core messages, educational messages, beware of getting too academic, getting too teacher-like. Try to make it a fun journey, and then I think you can get really the masses. So therefore, I think film has the ability to reach the mass, and therefore is a perfect communication booster. And may I just build the bridge back to David? No,
Ravi, before we go back to David, I just had a question for Stefanie, if you don't mind. Stefanie, as opposed to Chaguo, which is a fictionalized account, a more mainstream, kind of, a message-driven kind of cinema. Yours was a hardcore documentary. You were actually documenting what had happened, and you can almost say it was an anti-government kind of sentiment in that. Now, given those circumstances, I would love to know what has been the reaction of the government when you try to take it out right down to the grassroots and want to spread this whole thing. I mean, these people took the government to court and won. Now, this is not something any government would like, democracy or no democracy. So what has been your experience on the field here?
Yeah, thanks. That's an interesting question. So we also thought about this when we chose the law cases, you know, so which law cases should we choose, also not to bring anyone into danger. And I did not get any negative reaction here from Kenyan official authorities at all. I also have to say that the political landscape is quite open here in Kenya, yeah. But we thought about this thoroughly, and for me it was really important to get voices into the film from the legal landscape that give the film more power and authenticity. And for example, we got the former Chief Justice of Kenya, the most supreme judge in Kenya who has a great reputation. And it was so important that he gave a statement in the film in favor of the whole message of the film. So that was a means of, not only to be not only on an NGO and grassroots level, but to really involve also higher ranking representatives. Yeah.
That's amazing. Thank you, Ravi. Sorry.
Also, thank you, Stefanie, for adding those thoughts. Now, again, coming back to David. So, something I didn't ask you, but I think now it's a good point to ask. So, as you are focused on TV series, because of a good reason, TV series are booming like hell, right, in the last 10 years, right? So, and have developed to a very new audience experience. A lot of international series can be accessed through the streaming services now, and people enjoy also traveling, sitting on their couch, but traveling to other parts of the world through a series and connecting with those characters, which you can follow for hours on their journey. So, actually, but then I approached you with a feature film, Chaguo, a Romeo and Juliet adaptation talking about democracy. So, what was the reason for you to step into a feature film, although it's not a series?
The reason that interested me, it really had to do with the context of Kenya. In 2017, the elections were riddled with sectarian violence that was extremely strong. And 2022 was coming, was looming in front. And there was really a feeling that whatever could be done to try and bring down the tones of violence and allow for a little bit more tolerance for cross sectarian lines would be a positive. And so, me and my team, we really looked at Chaguo as being a very specific goal that was extremely timely. And also, your track record of getting things done well, done in time, and your desire to use Chaguo after it would be shown on TV to run impact campaigns. All of those things together made it really interesting.
Okay, thank you. Now I understood it better. So now we are, maybe we also can talk about the impact campaign, Naresh, if you allow. So I don't know your schedules right now. So we were scheduled to 10, now we have 10:12 in Germany and Switzerland.
I need to know, I mean, we did start about 15-20 minutes late, but it's completely up to you. I know you got a long day ahead of you, most of you. How long would you want to go beyond this? Another 10-15 minutes would be good for you?
Yeah, for me would be okay.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So
okay,
great. Thank you.
Okay. Now we let me remind the audience again. So we are talking about two films. We have Journey to Justice, which is a colorful documentary about law enforcement, and we have Chaguo, a Romeo and Juliet adaptation, speaking about tribalism and democracy and so on and so on. Now, both of those films, first of all, Journey to Justice, will be sent on a journey through the rural areas. I would like also to talk about this because, as you know, Stefanie and David, I'm really excited about the vision of people going, taking the films, traveling into a rural area, putting up their tent, putting up a screen, putting up a projector, showing the film, and talking with round about 200, 300 villagers in the dust of the village, and talking about really main topics like for Journey to Justice, get your right, something. So maybe also coming back to Stefanie, So why are you choosing also this path? Well, mass communication means you go over broadcasters, you have millions over there. But this is also going into the depths of the country and going for 200 here, 400 there, 500 there. So it's a different approach, isn't it? Are you still there, Stefanie? Okay, maybe to keep it, I think she fell out of the line. But maybe David, as long as Stefanie can't answer, but it's also the same for you, right? So you maybe you talk. Yeah,
she's back.
Oh, there she is again, Stefanie. Well, okay. However, Stefanie, have you gotten my question?
Yeah, sorry, you were all on suddenly.
Yes. Again,
no, you were talking about bringing the film to the rural areas, but
yes, yes. Because again, film normally is a mass communication tool. So normally you choose either cinemas or in broadcasters or streamers in order to reach millions. But this approach, this impact campaign we are just planning right now, also means to get a little amount of audience, 200 there, 300, 400 there, and in the dust of the villages, but to also to speak to them. So why is this so important for you, Stefanie, and also for you, David?
Yeah, thank you, Ravi. So for me, that's important. I mean, that's what the whole film is about, to reach out to citizens and to really make those aware who have a lack of awareness of what their rights are. So here in Sub-Saharan Africa, we have very good constitutions, very progressive constitutions and legislation, and most people just don't know about it. And for example, in Kenya, in the constitution that was adopted in 2010, there is even an environmental right. It's a basic right to a healthy and clean environment. Even in our constitution in Germany, we don't have a right like this. But there's no use if people don't know about these rights. And so, I mean, if you want to reach out, you also have to leave urban areas and have to go to the villages, because it's there where you have the environmental problems and issues. And, of course, you can deal easily with a population or citizens that are not aware of their rights. And I think if you want to create positive change and an impact, you also have to get these people on board. But maybe just to add, because Ravi, it was quite interesting when we conceptualized this film on the rule of law. For me, it's also important that we do not only reach out to rural areas, but also to lawyers, to high-ranking judges. And it was actually quite a challenge to conceptualize a film that would speak to all these groups. And somehow we managed. We put a lot of thought into it. Don't make it too simple and don't make it too complicated. I think that's the recipe to make a film like this on the rule of law.
Yeah. Thanks, Stefanie. And also David will be part of the journey to the rural areas. So maybe also you explain the audience why this is so important for you.
Yeah, so for two reasons. I mean, the first is that I find that a lot of documentaries and films, but more documentaries in this case, get made and then aren't seen much. I liken it to an architect who builds a house and then no one moves in. And so there's a real feeling that these documentaries, ultimately, once they're made, it should be viewed as the beginning of a journey and not the end. But because of the way that funding is done, everything goes to production. And so a new industry is sort of, slowly but surely developing, which is called impact production. And what impact production is a separate budget that's kept apart from production and really only kicks in once the film is made. And hopefully coexists with distribution deals so that you can show the documentary where it's needed, and ultimately is focused on impact goals, which are carried out through an impact campaign that's very well thought out. Now, in the case of Journey to Justice and Chaguo, the idea here is they're both made, they've both been shown, and now we can use them to affect even more change. And I also agree with Stefanie, we shouldn't just focus it on rural areas. And I think that our initial impact campaign with Chaguo was focusing a lot on urban environments as well. But it's true that, you know, they're going to be two separate, they're going to be two different kinds of campaigns. And the case of Sunshine Cinema, it's true that it will be focusing more on rural areas. And what I find most interesting about Sunshine Cinema is they're going to be showing these two feature films, but they've got, in both cases, they're going to have strong, they're going to have two people who will be animating discussion afterwards. And these people will have been trained in the main issues that should be brought up and discussed, and ultimately will be able to host these debates within the communities. And so it's a mixture of both showing it and the the entertainment side that you both mentioned, but also having trained professionals who are going to be, you know, moderating these discussions. I find that to be incredibly powerful.
Ravi, if I can come in here, it's very interesting because the kind of behavior change that you are attempting to effect through these films is pretty widespread. If Stefanie is talking about you know, getting people to understand their legal rights and actually go the whole you know, the whole journey from being aware to actually fighting those battles out there and winning. And David and through you, Ravi, you're talking about in Chaguo about people taking decisions, the right decisions for elections, but also we're talking about an election mechanism or a machinery which also has to be transparent, non-corrupt, etc., etc. Where do you, as filmmakers and supporters of good film, take your, you know, understand your responsibility? Where do you say, no, this is actually not our work. This needs someone beyond this. You know, there's a whole lot of stuff that needs to happen to make things, you know, to create the ideal situation that we are aiming for. So is there a line you draw, or is it that you get drawn into a whole lot of things? Because we're talking about impact. I mean, that's a big word, and that's a long-term kind of thing. But you know, you are filmmakers, you support this, and you want more and more such things to come out. Did you come across that dilemma? Is my question.
Yeah, I think let me just answer before I give over to Stefanie and David. I think the dilemma normally filmmakers have, they have a vision, they have a gut feeling, and then they do a film, and then, you know, whatever they're doing is reflecting in the numbers of viewers and also the revenue. You know, so if you have commercial product and you can sell it well, then somehow it shows that you were somehow right. But if it comes to audience, you know, the perception, whether they really understood the message and whether they could also translate the message into everyday's life, there is no really proof there. And there comes behavior change films in, because normally behavior change films go along if those campaigns are planned well, go along with impact campaigns, which we are just talking now. Stefanie and David said, like, it's also important, you know, to show the film and also have people talking about the film with those guys, with the audience there in the rural areas, for instance, and also, you know, collect data. So I think this is something which, to me as a filmmaker, is very, very amazing. I'm really looking forward to it, because the data will display also, you know, the in a way the audience took it, or whether they understood the messages. You know, what is the learning effect? You know, and that's something I'm really, really curious. And again, normally, if you are in the industry, the film industry, you don't get into those details. which always frustrated me to a certain extent, because the audience is actually, it's made for the audience, but you don't really understand it. It's like very folky. So that's why I find this very amazing. But okay, let me also hand over to Stefanie and David. And yes, I have another 6 minutes, so maybe Stefanie and David, do you want to respond to Naresh's question?
Okay, if Stefanie won't go, I'll go first then. Look, to me, it's easier for me because I'm not a script writer, and I'm not a director. I'm ultimately I come in afterwards as a producer, and I even focus on the latest stage, which is looking at the impact production side. So my argument to you would be, really what we're saying is there are storytellers who have a gift for being able to communicate something complicated to an audience. It can be, you know, through the discussion that Stefanie had, where they had to make it not too simple, but also interesting enough and focused enough that it would engage both sides of their audience. But ultimately, it's storytellers who are telling these stories, and my goal is to amplify whatever narrative shift can come out of it. So I don't really question, other than whether I believe in the message or not, I don't really question how far it can go, how far it should go, because I see that as part of the art of storytelling.
Stefanie?
Yes, thank you. I make it very brief as we are running out of time. So, you know, the philosophy of Konrad Adenauer Foundation is also help to self-help, you know, and that's where it also stops, you know, where I can't have influence, you know, when I have a product. I usually, with the film, I told people, this is a gift to the citizens of the region. Yeah, so we try to promote it and to set on track this beautiful campaign and bring it to the rural areas with our partners. But also, I want this film to unfold its own life, you know, and to start to fly. And I think it's very important that we chose 30 minutes as the length for this film, because that's an ideal format where you can have a debate or a guided discussion afterwards. So we have created memory sticks. I give it out to everyone, also to NGOs, and tell people, please take this film and show it, and it's yours. Yeah, it's a present for you. And of course, I come back, Naresh, to your question of in how far did we get in conflict with the government. It's of course important to have a safe product and to just talk about sober facts. And we were so precise with the research we did, and we weighed every word in the film so that this film can really travel everywhere and will not cause any trouble, but will raise awareness and educate people. Yeah.
That's wonderful. So I guess in the last, to bring this session to a close, well, a couple of things. We have a couple of comments from the audience. They want to know more about the films. So if there are any links you could share on the chat, that would be extremely helpful. Again, extremely sorry about the technical issues out there and not being able to play. We will still try as a closing. Maybe I'll ask Deepak to probably share the trailer of Chaguo. Maybe it will work better from his machine. I have no idea. But we will definitely put up both the trailers on the gallery segment of the Rise Picker World platform. So it should be available for people to actually watch that. So before we end, any last thoughts to conclude this whole very interesting discussion, I must say, on behavior change and behavior change films? Starting with you, Ravi. Let's start with you, Stefanie, David. Yeah.
I would like to repeat that in the industry, if you talk to filmmakers and producers and so on, so the topic of behavior change films is not really, nobody is really aware of this genre. It's a very, very special, a very, very small genre in the film world. So I would wish that people would know more, because, and also NGOs, all the other players, not in the film industry, would dig deeper into this genre, because it helps to boost the communication immensely. So I think maybe also Stefanie and David were talking about that. So that's something. These are my final thoughts. More behavior change films I would wish for the future. So there we are.
Okay. Thank you. Stefanie?
It was a great pleasure to be in this circle and to talk about this project. Maybe just to mention 2 points. So Konrad Adenauer Foundation, it's not our classical format to do a film like this. And in the beginning, I got a lot of questions. Why are you doing this? We normally do conferences and different formats. And that was all during times of Corona. And now that we have the result and the film is ready, I think there is also some acknowledgement. Colleagues of mine here in Africa, they also started now making a documentary film. So it's a bit of a breakthrough also for a political foundation to use film as a tool in the future. And maybe a last comment, our approach to get citizens on board, the film was not the only project, because I just saw a comment in the chat, and it was a question about women and girls, know your rights, and that's the poster in the background. And that was actually the first work of Ravi and me. It's a booklet about women's rights in Kenya and the most important articles in the constitution, and how to, and it's quite, the design is quite appealing, and this booklet is very successful here. And so that's the cover of the booklet. And so we are going to realize projects like this in the future, and maybe even a film. Thank you.
That's exciting. Thank you so much, Stefanie. David, thank God you got back in time. You were dropped out. Yeah.
Yeah, really interesting. So yeah, just to finish, I was just saying that, a lot of foundations and NGOs and individual funders are happy with funding grassroots organizations and more traditional methods to achieve behavior and social change. What I'd like to see is the integration of storytelling much more in there. And I realize it's a little difficult because there's this sort of creative black box, which is where the storyteller comes up with their story, and so there's a little bit less control. But I think that there's a huge role in it, and I think if we can bridge that gap, we can really affect more change and give a greater voice to people who haven't had it so far.
Thank you, David. So thank you so much, all three of you. It was really exciting. Behavioral change communication, as Ravi pointed out right at the beginning, is a very nascent form of communication in a way. And I think what you have achieved with both Journey to Justice and Chaguo is something which is very inspirational. And we hope that this carries on, and this kind of spreads across the world. Because I think what you are demonstrating, as Ravi had stated right as an object, that a behavior change film can not only be instructive, can be educational, but it can also be entertaining. And I think that's what you have really proved with both these examples. It's congratulations to all of you for the nominations and awards that you've already received. Looking forward to watching them on Netflix in a mainstream format. Thank you, Stefanie, for sharing the link to Journey to Justice. Ravi, I'm not sure whether you're in a position to share the link for Chaguo as yet. I think you're looking for a commercial release as well, I guess. So probably that it'll take some time. But I think Netflix is where we're going to catch it for sure. So thank you once again for being here, sparing your valuable time. And thank you for the wealth of experience and expertise that you brought to the table. I think all of us who attended this are going back richer for the experience and for the session. And